Please be seated. Friends, colleagues, and distinguished guests, greetings and welcome. I'm delighted to see you here today as we gather to dedicate this magnificent and beautiful new Indiana University cinema. As you will hear, this splendid facility serves as an exhibition space for film series that will educate, entertain, and enrich the lives of faculty, staff, students, and residents of the community. It will serve to enhance film scholarship and research, and it will showcase and preserve motion pictures of important artistic, historical, and cultural significance from around the world. As I look around, I'm pleased to see so many friends of Indiana University here today, and I'm particularly pleased that we've been joined by members of the Indiana University Board of Trustees here today. I ask them to stand as I call their names, and would you please hold your applause until all are standing. So please welcome William R. Castor Fort Wayne, Chair of the Trustees, Mary Ellen K. Bishop of Carmel, Bruce Cole of Washington, D.C., and Abby R. Stemler of Sellersburg, our Student Trustee. Please join me in greeting our trustees. Also on the platform today is Thomas A. Morrison, Indiana University Vice President for Capital Projects and Facilities. It is Tom's office that oversees the construction of remarkable structures such as the Indiana University Cinema. And would you please join me in greeting him and thanking his predecessor in this office, Terry Clapax, for their efforts as well. Would you also please help me welcome the Mayor of Bloomington, Mark Cruzan, who will be speaking later in the program. I'm also delighted to welcome Ms. Jane Jorgensen, a generous benefactor and fundraiser for this facility and of the guest filmmaker lecture series that is hosted here. Jane's husband, Jay Jorgensen, is also with us today, so would you please join me in greeting the Jorgensens. And I'd also like to offer our greetings and thanks to the IU Cinema Planning Committee, who put such tireless effort into making the space that surrounds us right now a reality. And would you please again hold your applause until all members of this committee have been introduced. Professor Barbara Klinger of the Department of Communications and Culture. Chancellor's Professor Emeritus Jim Naramore, who just returned from lecturing at the British Film Institute in London and who will be speaking in a moment. Professor Gregory Waller of the Department of Communications and Culture, who returned from sabbatical for this occasion. That's a great sacrifice, and who will also speak to us in a moment. Doug Pearson of UITS, who has provided invaluable technical support for this project from the very beginning. Then University architect Bob Meadows, and Kelly Kish from the Office of the President. Would you please join me in thanking all of the members of the committee for their... And I know we have here this afternoon many members of our faculty and emeritus faculty who have been associated with the study of film and related matters in the university, and faculty more generally from across the university. So I wonder if all members of the faculty here could please stand for our welcome this afternoon as well. That's an excellent turnout, I think, proving that film is obviously very popular with faculty. And finally, I believe University Chancellor Ken Gross-Lewis is with us. And if you could join me in welcoming Chancellor Gross-Lewis. Well, it is now our privilege to award an honorary degree, the highest academic accolade that IU can bestow. I ask Professor Jim Naramore to escort our candidate to the podium. Vice President and University Grand Marshal Edwin C. Marshall and Platform Marshal Robin Gress will assist with the hooding of our candidate.
Mr. President, can everybody hear me? Good. Film director, actor, writer, critic, and film historian Peter Bogdanovich is one of the most versatile and accomplished figures in the history of American cinema. His achievements reflect a life dedicated to the arts of film and theater and are worthy of the highest awards. The son of a Serbian painter who fled the Nazis and settled in America with his Austrian wife, Mr. Bogdanovich was born and raised in New York. As a teenager, he studied acting with the legendary Stella Adler, played in stage productions of Othello and Darkness at Noon, and directed a successful revival of The Big Knife. He also became an avid cinephile and programmed a historically important series of film retrospectives for the Museum of Modern Art. These resulted in the publication of his groundbreaking monographs on Alfred Hitchcock, Howard Hawks, Orson Welles, and Fritz Lang, and gave him the opportunity to write a much-discussed series of articles on classic Hollywood for Esquire magazine. No less than Truffaut, Godard, and the Hitchcocko-Hawksians of Cahiers du Cinéma, or the later critics and historians in what became a golden age of U.S. film criticism, Mr. Bogdanovich was responsible for advancing the serious study of American cinema as an art form and establishing what remains today the accepted list of its canonical directors. By virtue of his reputation as a critic, Mr. Bogdanovich was given an opportunity to learn film directing under the guidance of Roger Corman, a celebrated B-movie producer who also helped to start the careers of Francis Ford Coppola and Martin Scorsese. The rest is history. Mr. Bogdanovich began with Targets in 1968, an extremely low-budget, socially critical thriller that is also an intriguing movie about movies. Not long afterward, he made the classic documentary directed by John Ford and 3 remarkable feature films that gave him worldwide fame. Each of the 3 features was influenced by older directors he admired. The Last Picture Show in 1971 is in many ways a tribute to Orson Welles, particularly in its last scene, which is a nod to the lost ending of Welles's The Magnificent Ambersons. What's Up, Doc, in 1972 is derived from Howard Hawks' Bringing Up Baby and is every bit as funny. And Paper Moon in 1973 is filled with loving references to John Ford. Like anyone who works in Hollywood, Mr. Bogdanovich has experienced highs and lows, but he has remained devoted to his art and has continued making excellent films. Daisy Miller in 1974 is an unusually sensitive and intelligent literary adaptation. Nickelodeon in 1976, recently reissued in the black and white print that its director originally wanted, is an amusing, nostalgic, and touching depiction of pre-Hollywood movies. St. Jack in 1979 is an ironic drama redolent of Conrad and Malm. They All Laughed in 1983 is a mature, sometimes poignant screwball comedy. Mask, 1985, is a true-life story about a rare disease that deftly avoids the dangers of sentimental cliché. Noise is Off, 1992, is as farcical, fast, and funny as What's Up, Doc. And The Cat's Meow in 2001 is another brilliantly directed movie about movie history. Mr. Bogdanovich will be known to some in this audience as an actor in TV's The Sopranos, an episode of which he also directed. He's also the author of many books, including This Is Orson Welles, Who the Devil Made It, and Who the Devil's in It, which are among the most engaging and critically intelligent volumes one can read about the movies. Today, he can be found writing a fine blog on the web, appropriately called Blogdanovich. During his long career, he has accumulated many honors, a short list of which includes a New York Film Critics Award, a Directors Guild of America Award, a British Academy of Film and Television Arts Award, a Venice Film Festival Award, a Film Preservation Award from the International Federation of Film Archives, and a Grammy. Thus, Mr. President, in honor of his long-time and continuing creative and scholarly endeavors at the highest levels, it's entirely fitting that Indiana University bestow upon Mr. Bogdanovich the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters.
Peter Bogdanovich, Indiana University salutes you. Through your lifetime as a director, producer, actor, and writer, you have dedicated yourself to becoming a true student of film and have shared your experience, knowledge, and understanding with millions of people over many decades. Thus, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the trustees of Indiana University, I am proud to confer upon you with honor the degree Doctor of Humane Letters with all attendant rights and privileges. Congratulations. Our honored guest, and now our newest alumni, Peter Bogdanovich, once said, "If you don't see a film on the big screen, you haven't really seen it. You've seen a version of it, but you haven't seen it." That's my feeling, but I'm old-fashioned. Well, today, as we celebrate the dedication of this magnificent new cinema, all of us might be described as a bit old-fashioned, because we can recognize the difference that the big screen can make. The very best cinema creates community. It brings people together from varied backgrounds to explore other worlds, to visit other times, and to suspend their own lives for that moment in the theatre. It is not isolated to the living room or the desktop, not conveyed by television or computer, not controlled by a button on the remote or by a click of the mouse. Masters like Ford, Kurosawa, and Bergman saw their distant horizons, their minimalist landscapes, their shaded faces, and ticking clocks stretched out on the big screen. They heard the simultaneous laughter and gasps of hundreds of people in the audience, all reacting to the same moment on film. To share that moment allows us to share the essence of our humanity, our passions and our fears, and our greatest happiness and deepest sorrows. This quintessential art form of the 20th century forges bonds between people and creates a shared cultural history that somehow transcends culture. This is the power that cinema harnesses every time the lights dim and the curtain rises. With the dedication of the new IU Cinema, Indiana University is now home to that power. The magnificent space that surrounds us was originally dedicated in 1941, and for 61 years was home to the University Theatre. The classic Art Deco features of the cinema, or the original theatre, embodies IU's long-standing commitment to the arts, combining great traditions of performance and of visual art. In addition to its decades as a theatre, it is home to the 4 superb panels of Thomas Hart Benton's Indiana murals, originally created for the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. And Provost Hanson will say a little more about those murals in just a moment. But in 2002, the theatre went dark. Eventually, campus leaders began exploring how best to repurpose this space. Inspired by this university's outstanding tradition in film scholarship and our outstanding faculty, past and present, I announced in my inaugural address the conversion of the University Theatre into a state-of-the-art cinema at the very heart of the campus. This extraordinary resource has come incandescently to life once again, and the works of cinematic luminaries now quicken this truly beautiful space. Audience from the campus and the surrounding community are now able to see the masterpieces of cinema as they were meant to be seen. Over 2,000 people have been to film screenings and lectures here since the public opening of the cinema just 2 weeks ago on January the 13th. At least 7 screenings of the first 2 weeks of showings have been sold out, including every one of David Lean's films. I say sold out, but the vast majority of the film screenings here are free and open to the public. I attended the screening of Dr. Zhivago earlier this week, and the audience was incredibly enthusiastic. From the THX trailer before the movie, after which they cheered, through some truly mesmerizing performances, Rod Steiger's extraordinary performance in Dr. Zhivago, to the final scene of Lara's painful departure and of Zhivago's tragic death, after which they applauded in testimony to a great work of art. I've probably seen thousands of movies in the theatres over the course of my life, and after only a handful have people applauded. After every movie I have attended so far in the RU cinema, the audience has applauded. Nearly 11,000 tickets have been issued for spring film screenings, and I am confident that that number will increase dramatically as the semester progresses and the word about this superb new facility spreads around the campus. But of course, this is not just a space for watching movies. This space is creating other opportunities for film scholars and for students of film. The Jorgensen Guest Filmmakers Series, lecture series, has already included two-time Academy Award-winning production designer Terence Marsh, who shared his stories of working with David Lean on Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago. It has included musician and accompanist Dennis James, discussing his career in a WFIU NPR radio interview conducted on this very stage. It has included a visit from Dan Ford, John Ford's grandson, and the screening of never-before-presented John Ford home movies with voiceover narration and background stories. And that presentation preceded Peter Bogdanovich's documentary, directed by John Ford, just last week. Jane and Jay, we are indebted to you and your family for your vision and commitment to bringing cinematic masters to our campus to share their expertise. And so maybe I could just ask you once again to thank Jane and Jay for this wonderful contribution. And this is only the beginning. This facility is already taking academic collaboration in new directions. For instance, this spring it will present silent film screenings accompanied by live orchestral music performed by RU Jacob School musicians, beginning with Fritz Lang's classic and legendary classic, Metropolis. And that screening actually sold out last week. From the beginning, the RU cinema has been about more than film. It has been about people from across the campus, across the state, and around the world coming together to bring this vision to a reality. As I mentioned earlier, the inspiration for this project has in part been Indiana University's outstanding film faculty who come from across the university. In fact, part of my passion for this project grew out of Peter Bondanella's 2006 Distinguished Research Lecture on Federico Fellini. And I remember attending that lecture and thinking what a shame it was we did not have an appropriate facility to actually show the excerpts from Fellini's films that Peter used to illustrate his lecture, or even to be able to stage during that week a retrospective of many of Fellini's great films. As I mentioned earlier, Greg Waller and Barbara Klinger deserve our special praise for helping lead the RU Cinema Planning Committee, as does Bob Meadows, who was the university architect at the time, who brought his enthusiasm and understanding and his understanding of historical renovation and restoration to this project, and also to Bob Richardson, who succeeded him on this project. And Doug Pearson, is Doug here? I know Doug was going to come. Doug Pearson, from the very outset, has provided technical expertise vital to this project. And also the Vice President for Information Technology, Brad Wheeler, assisted greatly in this effort by negotiating a very important partnership with Sony. I should also mention Doug Burr and Jonathan Michelson, who were integral to this project, representing the interests of the auditorium and of the Department of Theatre and Drama, respectively. Specialised facilities like this often require champions, though, who dedicate countless hours as advocates and see the project through from initial planning to final details. This project has two particular champions, in my view, both of whom were members of the original planning committee. Jim Naramore was the first person that I called about the idea of an RU cinema in, I think it was, in fact, 2001, which is an appropriate year for one of the great scholars of Stanley Kubrick. He has since then, as this project made its way through to final implementation, Jim has been extremely generous with his expertise, his time, and his advice over this whole period, and this is something I'm particularly grateful for, considering that he actually retired in 2004. So could you please join me in thanking Jim for all that he has done as well. And the project's second champion is someone unheralded, and that's Kelly Kish from my office. And she's helped, as I think people know who've been involved in this project, she's helped in her inimitable style oversee this project from start to finish, attending to the countless details from fundraising to equipment contracts to architectural plans, down to the design of the chairs and fabric choices. And it's no exaggeration to say that she has eaten, slept and breathed this project for the past 4 years. So would you please join me in thanking Kelly for her efforts as well. And finally, I want to thank John Vickers and his staff for their superb efforts that have really brought this cinema to life with such vigour and energy. And I remember when the brochure for the spring program came out, being just so extraordinarily impressed and thinking this is exactly what we needed and exactly what we wanted. So again, would you please join me in thanking John too for his efforts. Well, the response that I've received about the new cinema really has been quite remarkable, with people stopping me around town to thank me on behalf of the university for this facility. But when they thank me, they are also thanking every person who has had a hand in moving this project forward, and I pass along my own gratitude for everybody's dedicated and tireless efforts. The new Indiana University Cinema, like the rest of IU's magnificent Fine Arts Plaza, represents years of determination, dedication, and intellectual effort, all directed towards strengthening and honouring Indiana University's great traditions and commitment to the arts and humanities. Like the IU Art Museum, the Lilly Library, the Lee Norvell Theatre and Drama Centre, and the auditorium, this new facility is a symbol of IU's rich cultural heritage. Each of these facilities enables the university's outstanding faculty and students to preserve, transmit, and build upon that heritage. The IU Cinema in particular will help them understand and translate the language of film. This is a language which, according to the incomparable director Ingmar Bergman, is literally spoken from soul to soul in expressions that almost sensuously escape the restrictive control of the intellect. It is a language that will now be spoken nearly every day at Indiana University, with fluency and grace to dazzle, to entrance, to enlighten, and to enrich. Thank you very much. It is now my pleasure to introduce IU Provost, Executive Vice President Karen Hansen. Please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to pick up that theme of the universality of the appreciation of what is being dedicated today. In his book, The World Viewed, philosopher Stanley Cavell writes of the universal appeal of film and discusses some of the ways in which we respond to movies. Rich and poor, he writes, those who care about no other art and those who live on the promise of art, those whose pride is education and those whose pride is power or practicality, all care about movies, await them, respond to them, remember them, talk about them, hate some of them, are grateful for some of them. That remarkable response to cinema is, in large part, why we gather here today. In this place for film, campus and community audiences will anticipate movies, remember and respond to them, engage in discussions about them, and learn through them. In this communal space, the shared experience of cinema will provoke and ground not just scholarship, but conversation and companionship. In 1963, Professor Cavell, who was then beginning what would be a long career as a member of the faculty of the Harvard Philosophy Department, looked forward to what was, at the time, a fairly novel prospect, using film as a topic for a seminar in philosophical aesthetics. Everyone would have memorable experiences of movies, he wrote. Conversation naturally developed around them, and the absence of an established canon of criticism would mean that we would be forced back upon a faithfulness to nothing but our own experience and a wish to communicate it. The way in which we experience film and our desire to communicate that experience has already caused conversations to develop around the exciting offerings that have so far been presented in the IU cinema. And there will be many, many more such conversations. In the coming months and years, students and faculty across the campus will engage with the films presented here, not only by watching, remembering, and discussing them, but also by reading and analyzing their scripts, learning about the circumstances under which they were made, and considering the important questions, technical, aesthetic, metaphysical, moral questions that those films raise. And today, of course, we celebrate these new opportunities and our great good fortune that Peter Bogdanovich has returned to the Bloomington campus to help us dedicate this facility. We may all engage with the movies in a variety of ways, but Mr. Bogdanovich has, as critic, director, actor, producer, and documentary filmmaker, contributed formatively to film and film history in a variety of ways. We're honored and grateful to have him as our guest. And we are happy, finally, to have this place for film. This wonderfully equipped and beautifully renovated cinema we dedicate today in Bloomington is a far cry from the very first film exhibition spaces. Francis Taylor Patterson, one of the first academics to study and write about film, described those venues as narrow, dank, unventilated halls where the first movies flickered before the astonished eyes of those whom the local undertaker's supply of camp chairs allowed a seat when there happened to be no funeral, or when the Sunday closing law made the corner saloon available for a performance. The great popularity of film in the early 20th century did, of course, give rise to splendidly appointed movie palaces and eventually to today's multiplexes. But on university campuses, for too long, films have been exhibited and studied under less than ideal conditions in rooms designed for other purposes. This is no longer the case at Indiana University. Today, we dedicate what we believe to be the best equipped university cinema in the country. Moreover, this hall is also home to 4 important works of art that are integral parts of our Indiana heritage and teaching mission. Thomas Art Benton's narrative murals of Indiana were, as President McRobbie noted, painted for the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. After the fair, the paintings languished in storage until 1941, when they found a home in the Hall of Murals, in what was then the new IU Auditorium, in nearby Woodburn Hall, and in the University Theater. The 4 sections of the Benton murals that were here in the theater suffered from serious degradation over the years, as did those in the auditorium in Woodburn Hall. The egg yolk and water solution that Benton used as a finishing varnish caused the paint to curl and pull away from the wall. But in preparation for the opening of the new cinema, these 4 panels, like those in the other spaces, have been expertly restored. We're grateful to Heidi Gelb, the director of the Indiana University Art Museum, for her leadership in this project, and to Margaret Contampasas of the IU Art Museum for her work in the restoration, carried out in collaboration with preservationists from the Indianapolis Museum of Art and Fine Arts Conservation in Cincinnati. The restored panels now grace this magnificently renovated permanent place for film, and in this place, we can renew our experience of film and the conversation it engenders. Cavell claims that we need always to return to the fact of how mysterious these objects called movies are, unlike anything else on Earth. He describes this mystery as the natural evanescence of film, the fact that its events exist only in motion, in passing. And he connects this to the power of film, that it is part of the grain of film to magnify the feeling and meaning of the moment, and equally part of it to counter this tendency to make plain the fateful fact of a human life that the significance of its moments is ordinarily not given with the moments as they're lived. This, I think, is a metaphysically and experientially accurate sketch of the mysterious power of films. And here in the IU Cinema, we will be able to experience the full power of film. This dedication is thus a significant moment in our institutional history, but the true meaning of this moment will be magnified in the experiences to come. Thank you. Thank you. And now let us take a moment to experience some of the state-of-the-art features of the new cinema and deepen our sense of the memories of the experience of cinema by viewing the film Precious Images, which was directed by Chuck Workman and which won a 1987 Academy Award for Best Live-Action Short Film.
Sing it, Sam.
You must remember this. A kiss is just a kiss.
A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time just goes by.
Singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. The sun's in my heart and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with the rain, I've a smile on my face. I'll walk down the lane with a happy refrain, just singing, singing in the rain.
This is Mrs. Norman Maine.
And John, most of those movies we're going to be seeing in the next couple of years too, I assume. Thank you very much, Provost Hanson. And would you again join me in thanking all of the staff of the Indiana University Cinema for that wonderful presentation too. Well, our next speaker is John Vickers, the director of the Indiana University Cinema. And we are delighted to officially welcome John, who was selected as the first director of the IU Cinema after a national search. And John comes to us from the University of Notre Dame, where he directed the Browning Theatre and managed the de Bartolo Center for the Performing Arts. He also ran the Vickers Theatre, a successful family-owned theatre in Three Oaks, Michigan. And we are delighted that he has brought his expertise to the new IU Cinema, and we're also delighted to welcome his wife Jennifer and their children Max, Frankie, and Ava. So please join me in welcoming the Vickers family and welcoming John to the podium.
Well, thank you, Michael and Karen, for your inspiring words, but more importantly, thank you for your vision, your wisdom, your leadership, and your moxie for initiating such a project. Chuck Workman's film gets me right here every time, and I was emotional just sitting there in the seat. It's amazing to feel or realize how much films have influenced our lives. Screenwriter and director Paul Schrader commented that motion pictures were the dominant art of the 20th century. Movies were the center of social mores, fashion, design, and politics. In short, the center of culture. Movies have owned the 20th century, unquote. Mr. Workman's short film reinforces that notion. A Place for Film. Our mission is to present a world-class facility and program that is dedicated to the scholarly study and the highest standards of exhibition of film in its traditional and modern forms. Our goal is to become one of the best facilities and programs in the country, and we can do that. The program builds upon the strong traditions on the IU Bloomington campus. The first student-run film series in the United States started here on December 2nd, 1914, with an IU Union Board film series that has continued ever since. It is also not surprising to envision that one of the first cinema studies programs in the country also started here at IU Bloomington, and that also continues to thrive. Through foreign language departments, cinema studies classes, and independent programs on campus like the Writer Film Series, this community has had a rich history of film exhibition. We are partnering with many of these groups, or existing groups, and we're also building new traditions and programs of our own. We, of course, also have the university library's film holdings, as well as the film holdings of different university centers and institutes on campus, now 82,000 reels of film strong to draw from and strengthen our program. However, memorable film experiences require not only good art, but also the right setting. The IU Cinema, masterfully redesigned, is that beautiful, unique setting that will surely influence filmgoers' experiences. The design enhanced the existing architectural design from the 1930s and skillfully hid the technology of 2010 until the lights go dim. With the installation of the best in film and digital technologies, as well as our recent THX certification, you're sitting in what is, we consider, the best equipped university cinema in the country. And we're very excited to show that off to you tonight. Of course, the IU Cinema is nothing without its people. Building and getting to know our audiences is one of our first priorities. Partnerships with our neighbors, Doug Boer, Jonathan Michelson, Audrey McCluskey from the IU Auditorium, the Theater and Drama Center, and the Neil Marshall Black Culture Center, respectively, will help us build unique interdisciplinary programs in the arts. Programming partnerships with faculty and students create programs and series that have relevance across the entire campus. And that's, I believe, is what sets us apart from most university cinematics. Through the leadership support of our donors, we have been able to not only build our program, but also make it accessible to everyone. As Michael alluded to, over 85% of our offerings in our inaugural series are free and open to the public. There are many contributors that have been involved in this, of course, but I would like to acknowledge a few of them. Wachovia Wells Fargo, Sony Electronics, Steve and Alicia Trewick, Bruce and Robin Miller, John and Amy Applegate, David R. Franklin, and of course the Jorgensens. As Michael mentioned, the lecture series is off to a brilliant start, which continues tomorrow with our honored guest, Peter Bogdanovich. Equally important are Jane's infectious enthusiasm for the IU Cinema and her continued support through projects and promotion. So thank you very much, Jane. Lastly, the IU Cinema has a small but mighty team that is firmly committed to the project. From our full-time staff members of Matthew Kirshner and Manny Knowles, and it stops there, to our very talented graduate assistants, student house managers, interns, and very, very dedicated volunteers, as well as our campus partners, we are committed to keeping film's place as the leading art form in this century. The great Swedish director, Ingmar Bergman, again, once stated that no art passes through the consciousness in the way that film does. We are proud to be the newest addition to the arts community on this campus, and we look forward to helping create your favorite film experiences in this newly born place for film. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I now invite to the podium Amanda Keeler. She is from South Bend, Indiana, and is a PhD candidate in the Department of Communications and Culture, as well as a projectionist here at the IU Cinema. So please welcome Ms. Keeler.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today speaking on behalf of the graduate students at Indiana University. The IU Cinema's opening means many things for our campus and for the city of Bloomington. The cinema promises a lifetime of films, guest lectures, visiting filmmakers, and film festivals. As a PhD candidate in the Department of Communication and Culture, which houses the university's film major, the opening of the IU Cinema has meant being able to watch films projected in 35 millimeter as they were intended to be watched. As a graduate assistant projectionist, being able to work behind the scenes in a state-of-the-art university has enhanced my knowledge and understanding of the emergent media technologies. Learning the exhibition side of cinema is giving me a new perspective on all of the work that goes into a successful screening. The cinema will offer unprecedented opportunities for graduate students. With the cooperation of the cinema staff, students will now have the chance to develop and program film and video series under the guidance of an experienced programmer, John Vickers. The university now has a venue in which to share with students and the Bloomington community more than 82,000 films that the university owns and archives that include the David Bradley Collection, the Kinsey Institute collections, and the audiovisual collection of non-theatrical educational films. Most importantly, this cinema means that, as graduate students, we can help instill the love of going to the movies in a new generation of young people. Teaching film studies in the classroom helps our students understand the theory, the history, and the critical analysis of media, but nothing compares to being able to show these films to our students in our very own cinema. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amanda. I'd now like to invite to the podium Professor Gregory Waller, who serves as chair of the Department of Communications and Culture. Please join me in welcoming him.
Well, I'd like to say, in keeping with the theme today, that my own love for the cinema started when I was a child, mesmerized by shimmering images in some elegant movie palace, or sharing the communal pleasures of a raucous Saturday matinee. Unfortunately, my earliest film memories tend to run to the other extreme, being almost traumatized when a babysitter took me to see Jailhouse Rock, for example, and even climbing on top of the family station wagon at the drive-in so I wouldn't have to listen to the songs from South Pacific. It wasn't a very impressive cinematic upbringing, I'm afraid, so I wouldn't have ended up here today, a bona fide cinephile, someone who has spent more than 30 years teaching about the movies, without the great good fortune to land at the University of California at Berkeley for my undergraduate education. Now, Berkeley then had no film studies program, but it did have repertory movie houses, and it had a host of screenings each day on campus, sponsored by every conceivable group. So, to confess, I probably watched 10 movies a week for most of what would have passed for my junior year. And then the Pacific Film Archives opened, and my sense of the possibilities of cinema was broadened and deepened immeasurably. This venue gave me the irresistible opportunity to see the latest films from around the world, to hear filmmakers in person, to watch rare archival prints, and to track a director's career across decades. The experience shaped the rest of my life. That's the inestimable value of a great cinema. And now we have a great cinema at Indiana University, a remarkable opportunity for Bloomington, for the university community, for undergraduates new to film, for graduate students in cinema studies who will have the chance to help plan screenings, attend academic conferences here, interview filmmakers, experience the magical collective pleasures of moviegoing. For a great cinema with world-class image and sound capability is even more important today than it was for me as an undergraduate in 1970, even though now we have a vast array of movies available at our digital fingertips. But these are movies reduced to small screen dimensions. They're prey to constant distractions, to the lure of multitasking. The experience of cinema can be so much more, and the IU cinema is a testament to the richer and more powerful possibilities of moviegoing. Being able to participate in the creation of this cinema has been one of the highlights of my academic career. I can hardly express my gratitude for, and even now my astonishment at, the visionary impulse, the material investment, the hard work and unwavering commitment that has created a truly world-class cinema at IU. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg. Well, occasions such as this one offer an ideal time to celebrate the vibrant partnership between the campus and the community. So I'm especially pleased that Mayor Kruzan could be with us this afternoon, and would you please join me in welcoming him to the podium.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Michael, for the invitation, although I have to admit, I can't believe you just gave away the ending to Dr. Zhivago. It's on my Netflix list, and there goes that. I also, while I'm complaining, I also wanted to note that I had contacted Robin Gress, who does an incredible job at doing these kind of ceremonies, and I asked her to get me a very good seat close to the screen. While this scholarly university crowd rightfully is celebrating Peter Bogdanovich's stellar film career, I am quietly delighted to have met not only Elliot, the psychiatrist from The Sopranos, but also the school-appointed psychiatrist of the one and only Bart Simpson. Both characters that were masterfully played by our special guest. The IU Cinema is yet another wonderful amenity for the campus and community, and in the increasingly competitive world of higher education, this beautiful facility is another in a series of projects and programs from the McRobbie presidency that sets Indiana University apart. The reopening of the cinema further enhances IU and Bloomington as destination attractions. An important part of city government's economic vitality strategy is a strong focus on arts and culture development and appreciation. And I read where our special guest, and was mentioned today, was influenced by Citizen Kane. Imagine who will sit in the very seat that you're currently occupying and be influenced in a similar life-changing manner. I love Indiana University for many reasons. Among them is that this institution consistently enhances accessibility of fine arts for its student, staff, and faculty, as well as for local citizens. And so I was very happy to hear Union Board was thanked. It certainly helped to shape the flavor of my undergraduate experience here at IU, but I also did not want to pass up the opportunity to thank someone else who helped to shape my experience as a member of the community, and that is Peter Lapalato from the Rider Film Series. Thank you for all you've done for this community. So to John Vickers and staff, this cinema will certainly serve to catapult this continuing effort by IU to add to the flavor of the campus and community by providing a forum to enjoy theater and film from artists around campus as well as around from the globe. Thank you to all of you who are involved in making Bloomington an even better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kruzan, and of course now Dr. Bogdanovich is going to be actually available for consultation too, I think now. So it is now my pleasure to call upon Daniel Kelly, the principal architect of MGA Partners, to present the building. In response to Mr. Kelly's presentation, Trustee Cast will accept the building on behalf of Indiana University, and after that, I will formally dedicate the building.
I want to make sure that key is down here.
It's up here.
Oh, there it is. Good. Thank you, President McRobbie. I'm honored to be offered the opportunity to say a few words at this important moment. And I am particularly pleased to see so many of the friends and colleagues that it has been my good fortune to know during the course of our many years of working here at IU. In fact, our story begins more than 21 years ago when Ray Casati called to ask us to help IU plan a comprehensive facility for performance and culture that would expand the university's long history of dedication to excellence in the arts. 9 years ago, almost to this very day, many of us stood here to celebrate the newly completed 100,000 square foot complex of theaters, workshops, classrooms, and offices. That new building supports the talents and energies of fresh generations of students and faculty who once thrilled audiences with live productions in the modest facilities at the back of the massive auditorium building. Yet in 2002, our work was not complete. Our plan was to revive those modest facilities, to create a link between old and new that would find the fullest potential for the spaces that once had served so well for so long. Thanks to the vision of President McRobbie and former Vice President Claypax, the program for a first-class cinema and essential performance spaces for theater and drama fit the plan perfectly. This is what I love about universities, and of IU in particular, that buildings and landscapes become meaningful not just at their moment of dedication. Instead, over time, they are worn into the rhythms of a great carousel, as countless people define the value of these spaces by making them a part of their daily lives. It is my earnest hope that the spaces we create here become resonant with the DNA of the ones that came before them. Spaces that will ably support the teaching mission of the university, and spaces that will vibrate with anticipation as the house lights go out, the building becomes background, and the show begins. There are many people I would like to acknowledge today. However, in my short time at this podium, I can mention but just a few. These include my colleagues at MGA Partners, Katie Bro and Daniel Chung, and I don't think they're here because they got snowed in. I left yesterday. Eric Rowland and Tim Wise at Rowland Design, Tim Steigerwald, Pat Kinder, Ron Moeller, and Josh Hughes at Messer Construction, and of course, Bob Meadows, Bob Cunningham, and Bob Richardson of the University Architect's Office. I would also like to thank the construction workers, masons, electricians, and all manner of tradesmen and women who put their very best craftwork into achieving this renovation. Finally, I would like to recall the memory of Thomas Hart Benton, the painter who gave us the wonderful murals that were masterfully restored as a part of this project. Through his art, he illustrated for us a progressive vision of how hard work in the making of things can be a powerful force to shape a nation and bring value to all of us as a collective of people. And so, Trustee Cast, it is with great pleasure that I present to you that key to the Indiana University Cinema.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. I accept this key with great pride and deep gratitude. As an embodiment of IU's commitment to the art and scholarship of film, this extraordinary new facility will enhance learning and teaching of this important art form. Today, we celebrate MGA Partners' outstanding achievement. I would add that personally, we've heard from people with great credentials in film. I want to share with you that I was a prop man at 20th Century Fox. I don't expect Hound Dog Man to reach the screen. But that work makes me exceptionally grateful that this facility is here, and it is with great pride for the trustees that we salute and gratefully acknowledge all who helped in the conception and the planning and the development of the project, and the many diligent contractors and craftsmen, craftswomen who completed the work. So, Mr. President, on behalf of the trustees, I'm delighted to present you with this key, which will open up a world of possibilities for students.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kelly and Trustee Cast. I really am delighted to now be able to undertake one of the most rewarding assignments that a university president can have. And it's a great privilege to add this facility to the outstanding resources of this campus. So we come then to the central moment of the ceremony, the dedication of the Indiana University Cinema. Will you all please stand? Friends and colleagues, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the trustees of Indiana University, I dedicate the Indiana University Cinema, commending it as a place of unique importance for the university. May all who come here to experience the art, scholarship, and technology of film appreciate not only the great history of this space, but also the deep commitment to the arts and humanities that this space represents. So please join me in celebrating the formal dedication of the Indiana University Cinema with a round of applause. Thank you very much. Please be seated for just a moment. Well, we now come to the conclusion of today's dedication ceremony, and our thanks go to our keyboardist, Cullen Ma, and our trumpeter, William Gerlach. Would you both please stand for our acknowledgement as well? And finally, our thanks to all of you for being here today to help us celebrate a wonderful day, a truly wonderful day in the history of Indiana University, the dedication of the Indiana University Cinema. So good afternoon, and thank you all very much.